whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
Something that has always stood out to me and many others is that this alien footage, or really any UFO footage, is always distorted. Ain't that something? Much like other sightings of interesting or abnormal things such as Bigfoot and other majestic monsters, it seems any sightings of aliens or UFOs have always been, well, kind of bad. Grainy, not clear, usually in black or white, and given that a lot of us have mini 4K cameras in our pockets in the form of smartphones, well, it really gets you thinking, what's up with the lack of camera quality here? I mean, we're talking about some of the wealthiest organizations using some really outdated tech, or so it seems. Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're asking, why does the Pentagon only have distorted UFO footage? Smash that like button and let's get into it. And I think the most obvious answer here, or the most common thoughts regarding the poor quality of UFO footage, would be that they are edited or fake. Over the years, the idea of having evidence in the form of a picture or video has led many to believe there is no way to dispute a claim. However, as we know and have seen, people tend to get creative when making incredible discoveries, if you'd even call them that. Given that we know in the film industry some of the world's very best can make things appear in ways they're not, well, the same could be said for any amateur with a camera. A prime example would be the infamous Bigfoot footage, which was taken back in 1967 and is known as the Patterson-Gimlin footage. Some were certain this was clear footage that Bigfoot was real, while others were under the impression this was simply a man dressed up in a gorilla costume. The footage itself was in color, and again, it was grainy, but we're talking about a camera from 1967. So what does Bigfoot have to do with the Pentagon's UFO footage? Well, the point I'm making is that even though there is video footage, not everyone is going to necessarily believe from the get-go that the footage itself is even real. That's not me questioning whether or not to believe the Pentagon's footage either, more so just proving a point that nowadays, just because something has been recorded, well, it's not necessarily proof of anything at all. On top of that, we know that even when things are recorded, there are plenty of different types of softwares that can either alter or edit video footage. Given that regular people, such as you and I, not that I'm anything remotely close to normal, but that's besides the point. Given that we have access to softwares such as Premiere Pro and Final Cut, stuff that a lot of the top professionals use to edit some of the best footage out there, I wouldn't be all that surprised if the US government is able to get their hands on some even better software. You know, the type of tech and software that costs tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of bucks, and can do things that we never even thought was possible. And this could be a good or a bad thing. On one angle, we could look at it from the perspective of these guys have the top of the line gear and recording software, so they should be able to take any footage received, regardless of how bad it was when originally recorded, and turn it into video gold. We're talking remastering to the max, going from black and white to 4K. So why is this alien footage black and white and still grainy? Well, that leads to my next point. Again, under the assumption the Pentagon does have top of the line recording technology as well as softwares, it's also possible that the opposite is true. They have very clear, high quality footage of UFOs and potentially even extraterrestrial life, and rather than just show the world the proof, they decide to make it poor quality on purpose. This way they could lead the public to believe they too don't know all that much, when in reality, they're trying to study and understand their findings without having to deal with the public and media breathing down their necks. It's also possible that whatever they find is potentially classified information, and until that information is declassified, they need to keep the general public and the rest of the world in the dark. I've referenced Roswell in a handful of our UFO, Pentagon, and alien videos, and for good reason. It's a prime example of what I'm explaining could be a possibility. Everyone says they saw UFOs, the US government claimed it was just a weather balloon, and then decades later, only after being exposed by a former general, did the US government admit that it wasn't a weather balloon and instead a secret US operation, which they needed to keep confidential at the time. Well, who's to say whatever they found the last 20 years, give or take, also needs to be confidential until they better understand what they're dealing with. Now, I'm not saying that this is a fact, but more so just a possibility of what's happening. As you can imagine, there are a handful of other possibilities or reasons that the UFO footage is always distorted. Although the previous idea seems a little more of a fun and out there of a theory, the more realistic and likely reasons behind the poor footage would be distance. A lot of the radars or video footage that was recorded by the US government was likely taken from quite a distance. If you pull out your phones and zoom all the way in, you can clearly see the quality of the footage starts to become more grainy. Imagine that on a scale in the hundreds or even thousands. Now, that's not to say that the US government isn't capable of taking pictures of things very far away. They've taken photos of things out in space. So the idea of an HD picture right here on Earth, well, that doesn't seem so crazy to me. But again, we need to think about the situation at hand. Those who take photos of things out in space are given the equipment for that specific job. That's what they're expected to do. The Pentagon, on the other hand, at least when it comes to these specific videos, weren't necessarily searching for UFOs at the time. As we know, during a handful of US Navy military drills, UFOs were spotted hovering near or around some ships. Obviously, for security reasons, I'm sure the Navy has recorded footage of what happens during their drills. But as you can imagine, they may not be using the top of the line cameras to record what is happening during a military drill, because that's not the the point of the drill in the first place. You see what I'm getting at? It's possible that the Navy was going about their business and something unusual happened. Realizing they couldn't set up their top-of-the-line cameras and software to record 4K or 8K HD or whatever they use footage of whatever it was they were dealing with, they decided instead to just record it the best they could in the moment using whatever was readily available. Thus, we were presented with some poor quality, grainy black and white footage, which is very tough to make out. Now, to make matters worse, there was clearly a far distance when this was recorded, so they likely had to zoom in using technology that probably isn't made for getting those close-ups. As you can see, this answer of the Navy just wasn't readily equipped because they weren't expecting to be followed by UFOs isn't as exciting as the Navy purposely made their footage look shoddy so they could keep us in the dark about what's really going on while they try to understand it. But it's also a possibility. Now, to wrap things up, the UFO report that was presented to Congress by the Pentagon made note that of the 144 sightings, only one was determined to be a deflating balloon. And as far as I'm concerned, we haven't seen footage of 144 sightings, only like 3 or 4, no? There were the two from the Navy in 2004 and 2015 in which they had 2 separate incidents in the latter, and another from San Diego in 2019. But what about all the other footage? It's quite possible they do have clear-cut footage and have only shared some of the more grainy, low-quality stuff with the general public. I mean, even the original videos that we saw, which led to this report, were leaked. So it's quite possible those who are a part of the UF task force are in possession of some top-notch quality videos, and only a select few not only have access, but the knowledge that they exist. All in all, the point I'm making is maybe these poor quality videos are all a part of a game that the government is playing, so we stop looking into what else they have or know while they continue doing some research. As I've been saying, guys, only time will tell. I'm not saying you can't trust what you hear or read, but take everything with a grain of salt. Do your own research, and overall, remember that we're talking about aliens here, guys. Aliens, baby! It's really serious, but let's also have some fun with it. Drink your water, get some exercise in, and for now, let's do some comment replies from the video. What dangers could we find on Mars? Terminator 156 said, I find it weird that NASA is now trying to go to other planets and find other aliens all of a sudden. The point I'm making throughout this whole video is maybe they've been doing it all along and just now they're making that public. Maybe they have been searching for aliens this whole time, and now that we're starting to catch on, now they're kind of giving us an inch. You get what I'm saying? Niku757 said, it is 2018. Me. Wait, what? Yeah, we went back in time, didn't know? Because we lost so much time with this pandemic, we're like, let's pull it back a little bit. Let's go back a few years. No, that's, in our marathon videos, we take a bunch of videos around the same topic and kind of make it one longer video. So that video included one of our old hosts, Rebecca, talking about a video from 2018. So it just goes to show how long we've been doing this channel. Damien Maynard said, hey, I was the 37th like, that's tight. But who, just out of curiosity, who was the 69th? Not that it matters, I'm just like, I think that'd be tight too. All right, guys, that's all for this one. I've been your boy Pepper, and we'll see you soon.